What is going on, guys? It's the MaD Dragon. So a couple of days ago I did a video talking about my starting 15 from the Lions team that was actually announced, the official team. Who would my starting 15 be? Why I picked some of the players, why I haven't picked some of the other players, and why I think the players that I did pick would gel together, make a good team, and what they would bring together. But of course I left a lot of players out because I only picked 15 from the 37. So I thought today what we would do is create the B team starting 15, which sounds like some really cool sort of warplane. So I thought it'd be fun to go through. I'm going to avoid picking any players I picked in that video. So if you haven't seen that video, go check that one out and come back to this one. I'm going to pick none of the same players that we picked for that one. And what we're going to do is create a B team of the best 15 of players that are left when they're not in that team and go through. So this isn't that players are particularly bad or anything. This is just going to be the team that I think will go on to maybe play some of the warm-up games, players I would pick, and I will go through some of the reasons why. So starting off with the front row, for me, out of the two remaining loose heads that go in, you've got Mako Vunipola or Rory Sutherland. To me, consistency-wise, I'm going to go for Rory Sutherland. I didn't actually pick him for the Lions team before the official team was announced. Sort of flew under my radar a little bit, and as soon as he was picked, I really sort of sat down and was like, yeah, that's a really good pick. Well done to Warren Gatland. I thought that was a really good pick. He's actually been really good for Scotland through the Six Nations. Very consistent. Not a lot of negatives to say about him as a call. Of course, we lost Xander Fagerson very early on in that Six Nations. So of course, he had to try and make up for it by being the sort of the big boy in that front row pack on the other side of the scrum, of course. So yeah, I'm going to go for Rory Sutherland. I think he brings a lot to the team, and I think he should make that B team starting. Moving on to the hooker, we've got two people left. We've got Luke Cowan-Dickie or Jamie George. Now for me, the one player out of these two that actually really impressed me in the Six Nations had to go to Luke Cowan-Dickie. So he's going to be my hooker. I think he's very good on the ball. He's very aggressive with ball in hand. The defensive work was actually pretty good from him in quite a few games. Scrummaging was good for him. And one of the few things we've seen a lot in the last Six Nations that just happened, one thing that he seems to love to do is when you get into that 5 metres and win a penalty, there's none of this kick in for the corner or post nonsense. He just taps the ball and goes forward using his face. Really like seeing that tactic. I hope that really catches on in rugby because I am a big fan of it. But a very good player, and I definitely think he would make my B team. Moving on to the tight head prop, Xander Fagerson or Andrew Porter. I've got a lot of praise for Andrew Porter, but for me, I'm going to go for Xander Fagerson. I don't think you should have players from too many different nationalities in that front row. I think you want to have a bit of consistency. So for me, I'm going to go for Xander Fagerson. I think Rory Sutherland on one side and Xander Fagerson on the other is a good pairing. Of course, we didn't get to see a lot of him in the Six Nations, which was a shame because he was actually playing well up until that red card scenario. And then when we got to see him come back against France, was brilliant. He had such a good game. It was a surprise to me that he got in the team based on his international sort of time, but I think he's a very good player. And Andrew Porter, for me, had a couple of mishaps going along the way. So for me, I'm going to go for Xander Fagerson. Moving on to the locks, of course. No Alun Jones, no Maro Itoje. Going to be some big calls here. So my number 4, I've gone for Ian Henderson. Very good. I did mention about whether Ian Henderson would maybe be in that starting 15, almost ahead of either Maro Itoje or Alun Wyn-Jones for different reasons. There's a couple of reasons why you would maybe put him in there. The stats that he has from that Six Nations, I believe he topped the charts for line-out wins, and it wasn't turnovers. There was another one I think he was on top for, but he's a very, very good player. Loving Ian Henderson. I actually think I would give Ian Henderson the captaincy role in this B team as well. He has played captain. We got to see him when James Ryan wasn't in for the Ireland team. So for me, I would go for Ian Henderson there and give him the captaincy in that number 4 shirt. Opening the number 5 up to Johnny Hill. I think a couple of people might want to see Courtney Laws in here, but Johnny Hill, I think, was good when it came to lineouts. He just needs to not give away any penalties. I've only really seen him in that number 5 position, mainly because Maro Itoje takes the 4 away from England. So that's why I'm going to go for Ian Henderson at 4 over Johnny Hill at 5. But I think he brings good scrummaging and good lineouts to the team. Along with Ian Henderson, gives you multiple lifters in that lineout. You could almost develop it to be slightly like the Ireland tactic for lineouts and have more than one really key jumper in the lineout situation. So for me, Johnny Hill going to take that number 5 position. On to the blindside flanker. Now, with no Tyg Burn, number 6 really opens up. Of course, Courtney Laws could slot in here, but for me, there are so many consistently high number 7s that can play number 6. Not that you would necessarily want them to. I'm going to follow that route down. Now, there's two people here. There's Tom Curry and there's Justin Tipuric. Now, they both play very well at number 7. They've both played number 6 at some point. Tom Curry's also played a bit of 8. I can't think of a time Justin Tipuric has ever really played 8, apart from maybe injury situations where he just fills in just to cover it. But for me, I think Justin Tipuric is a good enough all-round player that he can swap from the open side to the blind side and still consistently play well. A lot of his game techniques come from either running with the ball in hand or in the tackle and breakdown zones, which I think whether you play 6 or 7 can work very well for him. You get to see how well MaD does in the Wales team when he plays number 6, so I don't think it'd be that hard for Tipuric himself to move in, sort of fulfill a bit of a MaD style role in that number 6. So for me, in that blindside position, I'm going to put in Justin Tipuric, which means in the open side, I'm going to give to Tom Curry. Give a lot of praise to Tom Curry. He is one of the few England players, the Six Nations, that played very well. The first game aside, no one played well in that Scotland game. But throughout the rest of the Six Nations, I thought Tom Curry was very good. So for me, I'm going to pick him at number 7, which means at number 8, where are we going to go at number 8? Jack Conan or Sam Simmonds? I'm going to give it to Sam Simmonds. Jack Conan's one of the players I think is, again, another one who sort of flew under the radar for me. Didn't really think of him going to get into this Lions team. And Sam Simmonds, you definitely didn't really think going to get into this team, of course, with very little international time. But in all honesty, when you look at his club games and his sort of highlight reel he has, I believe he's the top try scorer. And he's in his club level. Why is number 8 getting up there for top number try? Shouldn't be up there. Doing very well, very fast number 8. There's very few fast number 8s anymore, actually. A lot of them move out to the wings and try and find gaps. But in terms of speedy number 8s, he's certainly got a lot of pace behind him. I'm going to pick Sam Simmonds here. I'm really looking forward to see what he does in this Lions team, regardless of what these videos consist of. But I'm really looking forward to seeing him. So I'm going to give him that number 8. And I think then you've got your Tom Curry at 6 and your Sam Simmonds at 8. A couple of England contingencies there working together. I think it could work well when it comes to scrum time and at rucks. So that's where I'm going to go down there. Moving on to the back scrum half. We've already used up Conor Murray. So we've got Gareth Davies or Ali Price. I'm going to go for Ali Price here. Gareth Davies, to me, not at the standard I would want to see him. I think this would be a big call. A couple of people would probably want to see Gareth Davies in there. For me, Ali Price was going to make this Lions team for me, and I picked Ben Youngs ahead of him in my actual choosing team of the Lions, whatever I called that video. Ali Price is definitely getting really good. Since Greg Laidlaw went, they had to fill some big shoes in that scrum half position, and Ali Price certainly managing to do well. The box kicking just needs to get a bit more consistency, but the quality on his box kicking is brilliant, and I would like to see him run with a bit more in hand. You know, he's very good at just passing the ball up, but you'd like to see him some little sniping runs. We got to see it in the France game, but across the Six Nations, would have liked to see it a little bit more. But for me, I think I'm going to give Ali Price that chance. And with Ali Price in at number 9, there can only be one number 10 that I want to go with. It's going to be Finn Russell, the 9-10 combination from Scotland. They've played together. They know how each other works. The Scotland team this year looked very good in the Six Nations. The aggressive technique they went for, a lot of attacking rugby. Finn Russell, of course, being the wild card. Ali Price being the security, the guy you know what he's going to do. I think it works really well, and I think having a 9-10 combination, you want a halfback partnership that works well together. I would have had it probably in the international, for the official team, sorry, if it was going to be Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton. No Sexton in. But I get to do it in the B team, so Ali Price and Finn Russell make my 9-10 position. Left wing, not a lot of options here. For me, I'm going to go straight off the bat and just say Josh Adams. This is going to be quite difficult to do with these back three because of how many people can play multiple positions here. But for me, Josh Adams has been good for Wales. The defensive qualities he had were always quite bad for Josh Adams. It was his only negative I had about the Josh Adams game was his defensive technique wasn't the best. But in this Six Nations, we really saw it take a step up. It's maybe probably better actually than Duhan van der Merwe's in terms of defensive technique. The finishing, he's getting over the try line. He is getting over the try line. Had a couple of tries not go through because of dropping the ball and landing on his own arms and stuff. Needs to just up that finishing a little bit, but does get himself across the line. He brings the attacking prowess we know Josh Adams has, and the defensive work has stepped up. So for me, Josh Adams, left wing. The centres. So I got rid of Owen Farrell and Robbie Henshaw in the official one that I actually did. So what am I going to do with the centres for this one? To me, I want my dedicated 12. Owen Farrell no longer in the team. Robbie Henshaw would have been, of course, your second choice in that 12 position. For me, I would like to have a set centre partnership here in a B team. This is a B team you've got to imagine may not have the best attacking prowess. Of course, this isn't missing quite a lot of the top players that are in that starting 15 that I picked. So I'd like to have a much more defensive setup. People you know are going to be solid, people you know can rely on. So at number 12, I'm going to go for Bundee Aki. You know what he brings, that that first receiver off the ruck and the scrum, smash the ball through, get you those gain meters that you want to see get made. We know how good Bundee Aki is when he's in good form and not getting red carded after a few minutes. So Bundee Aki is going to take my 12, and I'm going to put Chris Harris in at 13. There's not going to be any Elliot Daly in this team for any big Elliot Daly fans out there. Chris Harris, to me, showed off a lot in that France game. I think his defensive work is really good, and if you have a B team, you want to not be conceding tries, especially on a Lions tour. You want to be managing to keep the scores relatively respectful. So Chris Harris having a defensive 13 angle is very good, and he's also good in attack. I mean, I talk about now his defensive work. I always slated his defensive work until that France game, and now it's all I talk about Chris Harris. I think he worked really well. The aggressive attacking style he also has is very useful for Chris Harris. So for me, Bundee Aki 12, Chris Harris outside centre at 13. Right wing, no Reece Emmett here. So for me, I'm going to go for a very similar player to Reece Emmett. Anthony Watson's going to take my right wing. Big fan of Anthony Watson, the Six Nations, really stepping up. I think he's outshone Johnny May leaps and bounds in that winger position for England this year. The running lines he's been taking, the inside step, which no one seemed to be able to counter in the Six Nations, really worked well for him. Anthony Watson definitely beginning to take a few step up. I think they knew that a couple of players could be being removed from that England team if they didn't have a good Six Nations. And I think Anthony Watson could have been to be on that chop list. He hasn't played well for a couple of years for England. I haven't been a big fan of Anthony Watson, but this year, really taking a step up. Big fan, doing well. So Anthony Watson going to take that 14. And finally, at fullback with no Stuart Hogg, but not a bad replacement at all, I'm going to go for Liam Williams in that 15 position. Good under the high balls, good kicking ability. His discipline's been off for a couple of months, I would say. Going back to the club level games, we did see him get sent off. I believe it was against Cardiff Blues I saw him get sent off. Discipline just needs to be sorted out a little bit. A couple of the Six Nations games, you see him get fired up a little bit over things that just don't need to be involved. A bit of grappling, bit of in your face, but it's... And it always happens in rugby, but it's almost a bit too much for him. You see like he's almost wanting to fight someone for some reason. So I think if he can just keep that under control, get on with his game. We know how good he is under the high ball. The counter-attack from him is also really good. He actually plays quite similarly to Stuart Hogg. He's worked well in that Wales team, and I think with having him and by having Josh Adams on that left wing, you've got the partnership that you had from the Six Nations. We know they work well together. So I'm going to put Liam Williams at my 15. So this is going to be my starting 15 B team squad, which sounds so cool. I really like this. The B team starting 15, really cool. I really like that. So across the board, I think we've got a really solid front row here. Luke Cowan-Dickie brings the aggressivity in there. The Scotland scrum worked very well for them actually, even when they were missing Xander Fagerson. But I think in that France game, I think the combination of having Rory Sutherland and Xander Fagerson there will work well. I think Ian Henderson and Johnny Hill bring you strong line-out players. Ian Henderson being able to swap to 5 if you need him to when you swap around and taking over a captaincy role. Justin Tipperick in there as well, can do captain if you need him to, but I would probably prefer to see Ian Henderson as captain. Your back 3 there is, you've got your 6 and your 7 are big breakdown players, but also ball in hand, straight line running. We've seen Justin Tipperick do it against England in the Six Nations, I think last year when he had his little breakaway try. And then Tom Curry, we know how good he is when he has the ball in hand. Both of which big tacklers and big jacklers, being able to get the ball back. Sam Simmons there just to bring speed and pace from a forward player to smash through. Ali Price and Finn Russell, the link-up combination, the half packs that we'll know they'll work very well together. Josh Adams and Anthony Watson bringing the speed, along with the combo duo of Josh Adams and Liam Williams playing together in Wales, I think works well. And then Bundee Aki and Chris Harris, one being able to just smash through the line, and then Chris Harris being able to defend anywhere you need him to. I think it's a pretty solid team all round. Even though it's a B team, I think I could see this team doing well. But again, like I always say in these sorts of videos, I am but one man on the internet making outrageous claims about rugby. So make sure you drop down in the comments who would make your B team. It's really interesting to go through. Not your starting 15, but like your reserves team. Really interesting thing to talk about. So make sure you drop it down in the comments. I love going through other people's teams just to see what they they think in comparison to me, because of course I'll never be right about this sort of thing. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I am going to be doing some more videos covering the Lions, of course, when they are on. I've got a bit of a news video which I'm going to do. I need to look into it a little bit more. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you leave this one a like, but also subscribe to the channel just to keep up to date when that video comes out, because that could be something interesting to do with a bit of communication, a bit of engagement between me and other subscribers that we've done on the channel before. I just need to look into it a little bit more before I sort of do a full announcement of it. But I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I will see you next time. Bye bye.